It's like I have thoughts in my brain, but nobody can hear them, but I can hear them. It's kind of wild. It's only 9 minutes. I guess we're still recording. Here's a question. Well, it's just a thought. It's also a question. Are we more of a product of our environment, or are we a product of our own hard work? 100%. Everything I do, I get back. Which one is it? I pay attention to what happens, or I pay attention to what other people say happens, I guess. It's probably a better way to say it. And I feel like there's these two competing schools of thought that everybody promotes, whether it's overtly or, let's say, implicitly, that you either are 100% a product or a victim, it doesn't really matter, a result of the environment in which you grew up in, you were raised in. There's also another school of thought that says you're 100% the product of your own hard work or lack thereof, and every single thing that happens to you is based upon the choices that you made in your life and nobody else. It can't be that both of those are true. Somebody has to be lying, and maybe it's both of them. This is what I think about. Okay, the stock market, 1960 through 1980. If you beat the stock market for 20 years, starting in 1960, if you beat the market by 5% a year, you did worse than the guy who started in 1980 and underperformed the market by 5% for 20 years. One guy beat all the peers by 5%. The other guy lost to everybody by 5%. And guess who did better? The guy who started investing in 1980. So who's right? I don't know. There was a debate the other week. A bunch of blabbering idiots. Like, there's all these videos that are going around now where they compare Trump to Obama giving a speech about how they just killed a terrorist. You know what I'm talking about. Or they compare, Bush and Clinton debating 30 years ago. And then they like overlay it with, 2024. It's like we're on a different planet. You know those things from like 50 years ago when they were like, this is what the world's going to be like in 2024. We're going to use technology to show, for all these human advances, and disease is going to be eradicated and we're going to live forever and it's going to be utopia. And I don't think that people realize that all that happened was human depravity was just simply exposed because we all got multiplied and we could all get whatever we wanted so fast. That's what happened to technology. That's what happened to people's advancement. But are we a product of our own environment, or does our environment just reveal who we are? Am I a product of my own hard work, or am I actually fundamentally the same as I would have been 100 years ago? And yeah, I would have been the racist guy who did all those terrible things. But now it's been told to me that I can't do that, so I'm not like that. I don't know. There's a lot of otherwise what we would consider, let's say, stand-up people who did things 50, 100, 200 years ago that in today's society we would think of as unconscionable. It's like the Overton window really has shifted. The things that we consider to be acceptable in normal discourse have moved so dramatically in some places. It's just wild. Like, you have to remember, 250 years ago, politicians would like get in a fight and then they would shoot each other. That's not actually that long ago when you think about it in the context of history. Are those people actually fundamentally worse than like Trump and Kamala? Or is it the fact that that's just what was considered acceptable, and you know what? They just shot each other. And they weren't really all that bad of people, but you know what? That's just what was considered acceptable, and people just went with it. Do you realize 30% of the world doesn't have internet? Do you know how many people that is? 2.6 billion people walking around the face of the earth don't have access to the internet. And so we walk around all high and mighty like we rule the world because here we are, internet influencers, and all of a sudden we don't even realize that 30% of like human capacity is never going to watch you at all. So you're left with like 70% of the rest of the world. And at least half of those people you hate, that's true. So now you're left like 35. And then of those 35, at least half of those you think you're way smarter than. So now you're left with a very small subset of the universe that you can actually display your like knowledge and intelligence to. And you think that you're talking to everybody. This video is going around of Tom Holland playing a golf tournament. This is Pro-Am. all the world famous pros playing with celebrities. Usually, that's how these things go. And he's on the driving range, and he walks right up to Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy, best golfer of his generation, number 2 ranked player in the world. And he goes right up to him, and he just shakes his hand and says, "Hey, I'm Tom." And it's all caught on video, and you can look at Rory's eyes, and you can tell this motherfucker has no clue who Tom Holland is. Think about that for a second. Tom Holland, Spider-Man, award-winning actor, whatever. Teenage girls love him, dating some, A-list girl. And Rory McIlroy, world-renowned Rory McIlroy, generational talent, has no clue who this guy is. Is he a product of his environment? Or the fact that he just has his head down and he's doing his own thing? We tend to overinflate who we think or what we think people should know about us so often. By default, the average person is just going to show exactly the amount of interest in you as you display in them, right? And if you think about somebody like, I don't know, a world famous athlete or a movie star, when do these people's universes collide? If I'm the actual top of my talent pool of whatever I'm trying to do, sports or acting, you name it, how much time do I spend thinking about anything other than that thing that I'm doing? Basically 0. So why would I know even the most famous actor in the world if all I'm doing is trying to be the world's best golfer or basketball player or football player or whatever? I just think this stuff is hilarious, by the way. And yeah, maybe it is lonely at the top for these people and they have to go, that's why, I don't know, Roger Federer and Tiger Woods are friends, even though they don't play the same sport, because they were kind of like the only guys at the top. Maybe there's something to be said for that. But I think sometimes we overinflate what others think of us. For the record, I don't really care. I'm just kind of sitting here talking, but it's real. And when we see all this stuff on the internet, I think we have this tendency to believe that like the world is more divisive than it's ever been. That's like the popular thought. Everybody's in the internet and you can see all of their thoughts. Therefore, all this, hate, whatever, fake news gets spread. And people want to believe that the world's more divisive than it's ever been. But are you sure? Like, are you sure? I don't know. 250 years ago, we had politicians shooting each other. 200 years ago, we had slaves. We just owned people. And then after that, we could say, well, you can vote, but only 3/5 of it counts. That seems like a lot more divisive, I think, than it is now. Maybe it's more divisive today. I would argue that 500 years ago, we were the exact same. We just didn't know it. We just didn't know it because we had a bunch of different civilizations that progressed at dramatically different paces, did dramatically different things, and they just had no idea what the guy 2 doors down or 2 villages down was doing. Because it's not like they were just going to pick up the phone and call them. Why would they do that? They were just focused on what they were doing. Product of their own environment, maybe. But do you really think when you look at Christopher Columbus sailing the ocean, landing in America, do you think that the people who were in America at that time had the same opportunity to achieve the same level of defined success that they would have called it in the old world? Like, I kind of wonder what would have happened if, like, we had just said, we're never going to cross the ocean, and 500 years later, like, whatever happens, happens. Like, where would America have been? Where would Europe have been? More divisive than it's ever been? No, I'd say we're more exposed than we've ever been. I actually know what other people think and do. There's also, like, virtually nothing in the world where people have an equal set of opportunity. There's virtually no realm in which everybody is on the exact same playing field, because we're all a product somewhat of our environment. The person who wants to grow up to be a brain surgeon, but nobody in his family has ever gone to medical school, or her family, or they don't have enough money to send you to even the most basic of university or college, community college, you name it. They have to spend so much time working to earn money to be able to save up to go. Do you think that person's going to be in the same position as the person who grows up, goes to all the right schools, gets the scholarship, is told what to do by people in their family who have been doing that their entire life. Like, in what world does anybody have the exact same set of opportunity for anything? It's not true. But at the same time, just because the door's open doesn't mean that person's automatically going to work hard. Doesn't mean that person's automatically going to go achieve what they're supposed to be able to do. Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, when you're hiring, you look at 4 things, basically. It's like intelligence, their backgrounds, which you could say is like, the culture they might have grown up in or they've worked in, their willingness, and their attitude. You can kind of combine those last 2, so maybe let's call it 3. Their talent, their background, and their attitude. And they're like, okay, which one's most important? And the answer is, it depends. That's always the answer to the hard question. Sorry to piss everybody off, but it always depends. Because the reality is, your attitude can usually take you from the 25th percentile performer to a 75th percentile performer. I think that's probably in most areas mostly true. But I don't think that your attitude's simply going to take you from the 80th percentile to the 99th percentile. I'm not just going to attitude my way to becoming Elon Musk. Sorry. I'm not just going to attitude my way to being the best at anything. It's a combination of all of those things. And if you're really truly the best at something, you probably can't do it with a bad attitude. So it is a requirement, but there's these other things that you had to have in order to become the best. Who built the pyramids? I don't know. Okay. I'll figure it out next time. So one of the things that I think is really funny about the internet that I figured this out recently is because I spent a lot of time on Twitter, X. That's where I got all the information. And it could be wrong, it could be right. I have no idea. It's just information to me. But the internet is basically curated to your corner of the universe, right? So you scroll things, you spend more time on one post than another, so it tries to find things that are more like that. Or you like this, or you don't like that, and it kind of just morphs into like your own like personalized little corner of the world of things that are exactly like you. It can't actually tell what you like versus don't like, because if you send somebody a post, it can see that you sent it to somebody, but they can't actually tell if you liked it or didn't like it. You know what I mean? When you send somebody a post, you're like, this is so stupid, ha 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 ha. Well, at least the way it is right now, X, Twitter, just pretends like you like that even more, so they just they don't really know what's going on. The thing that I find funny about this whole thing is that the more that you get the internet curated to exactly what your brain is thinking about, the more that all you really do is just compare yourself to people who are within the exact same set of circumstances as you. Like, it's exclusively people that look and smell like you, because that's the way that the internet wants you to think. So it creates this little box and it puts you in the middle of the box. And then there's another box over to the side that you don't see, that you don't even know exists. This is why famous people don't even know each other, because they're in different boxes and they don't even know the other box exists. But then the second that somebody peeks their head over the lid and they see that somebody else is in their own little fortress over there, all hell breaks loose, right? It's like you're just a product actually of yourself. And like I was saying before, what you don't even realize is that there's so many people who don't even have the internet. And then you hate most of the people who actually are on the internet, and you tend to think that your own small slice of the world is actually the entire universe, when in reality, all you're doing is just bickering and screaming at like 16.4% of the people who could possibly be on the face of the earth. And you think that that's everybody. And then all of a sudden, what happens is people in a box get put in a certain position of, I don't like the word power because it's stupid. Get put in a position of influence. And people who, let's say, are free agents, who don't necessarily think that they belong in one box or another, but will simply float along with whatever has the best vibes, let's say. Because we're a society built on vibes. Hey, these people have got vibes. I'm just going to attach to them. Most people don't actually want to do hard things. I certainly don't want to do hard things. That sounds terrible. Thinking for myself? Are you kidding me? Like, I really think that most people don't want to make decisions for themselves. I've started to really cue into this. Every time I am around another group of people, I kind of just like to casually so what do you guys want to do? Where do you guys want to go eat? And I guarantee you, start writing this down. I guarantee you, easily in excess of 3/4 of the time, maybe 95% of the time, the default answer that everybody gives is, I don't know. And if that's everybody's default on things as basic as where do you want to eat? Or how do you want to spend your time? It's your life, by the way. What do you want to do this Friday? I don't know. Oh, you don't know how you want to live your life? What else does that say about you? Seriously. The most valuable time of your 168 hours this week, your Friday night, and you're just like, I don't know. I didn't think about it. I don't know. How do you want to spend the next 4 years of your life? Who do you want telling you what to do? I don't know. Just the person who makes it seem the easiest to listen to them. I don't really care what they're saying. That's what they usually say. I don't really care what they're saying. That's how they act, at least. Just make it easy and make the vibes good, okay? That's how we vote. I just want the vibes. Because I don't want to actually have to deal with what's in the other box. Why would I do that? That's hard. I don't like to do hard things. The best is when you get people in your same box in charge of, let's say, conveying all the information to all the other people. It's when the echo chamber gets really loud. And then everything on the internet's perfectly curated. Whoever controls the internet, the gods of the internet, perfectly curate it to you. And you never have to deal with the other thing. Except for when, accidentally, the other things that they said turned out to be right 3 years later. Whoops. Didn't think about that. Oh, well, it doesn't matter anymore because that's in the past. I don't know what's going on, dude. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Are we more divided than we were in the past? No. We just happen to secretly know that the other people exist, but we just choose to ignore them. In the past, we just actually could ignore them. Now we just kind of conveniently choose to ignore them, except for these moments where we have to call it out. Whatever. Goodbye.